Welcome to today's lesson on what a ladder is and how to organize and plan for your yearbook. My name is Ava Butsu and I have just finished advising my 22nd yearbook at Grand Blanc High School in Michigan. I'm also a certified yoga instructor and my favorite pose is half moon. So let's talk about what a ladder is to begin. It's a framework, it's a plan to build each spread of your yearbook, to decide what's going to be on every single page. There are several different types of ladders. Today we're going to talk about a traditional ladder, and this is the one that locks in your coverage plan, and a chronological ladder, and this one is driven by the events of the year, and it allows you to cover more people and the stories and events that matter most as they occur. Keeping in mind that stories in 2021 and beyond are going to need to shift to be less about shared moments, those are the events, and more about shared experiences, and those would be personality profiles and news and events as they crop up and change in the world. So let's look at a traditional ladder first. This is the one that locks in a coverage plan. A traditional ladder will divide up the pages in your yearbook into sections, generally beginning with student life. So you'll start out with your title page and the opening that teaches the reader about the theme of the yearbook, and then there's this key division page that announces what the section's going to be. And this section is going to potentially include things like your summer recap, and then those events that happen at the start of the year and throughout the year, like Homecoming Week, Spirit Week, fashion and trends, technology, jobs and volunteering, all of those things that students are so interested in writing about and reading about. The next section might be sports, and again, it's going to be announced by a sports divider. And then going through and listing what all of the sports are that occur at your school and listing them on these pages based on potentially season or grouping them potentially other ways. The third section might be clubs and organizations, again, announced by that divider page, and here figuring out exactly which clubs are going to happen, are going to form and be active during the year, and organizing them in a way that makes sense. The tricky part about clubs and organizations is they tend to come and go. So a club like Quiz Bowl may have been really active last year, but all of a sudden no one is joining this year and the club folds. Or conversely, there may be a club that evolves halfway through the year. Either way, you're going to be left with a space in your book that you have to fill, or you're going to have to find space for that new club. Another section is the academic section, so important because after all, that's why we go to school. So it's indicated by the academics divider, and sometimes this section is organized based on the departments that you have at your school. And then don't forget your people and your references. Sometimes these are grouped together into one section and sometimes they have their own section. So how do you decide which pages go in each section of the yearbook or how many pages to dedicate to each section? Well, start with the number of pages that you have in total in your yearbook. And then you can use this breakdown percentage-wise of how many percentage of those pages you can dedicate to each section. So again, you'll determine the real estate, as I call it, that you want to give to each topic, keeping in mind that something like football at your school may have up to 200 students in the entire program and may need more than just that half spread. Something smaller, like potentially tennis at your school, may share a page with another smaller sport. Let's talk now about a chronological ladder. This one's a little more flexible. It lets you build your coverage as those stories happen, but still you're going to organize it ahead of time to plan topically for events and stories. So everything stays the same in the first 3 pages, and then we also have a divider, but instead of organizing it by one of those categories that we looked at, it's going to be organized by time. So you may have a fall divider, or you may have a first marking period divider, or a first semester divider. And you can decide how many sections you want in your yearbook to break up that time. It can still include things like your summer recap, recap, but it might also include something like a weekly feature spread where you can tell all of the stories that have happened that week, including sports, academics, clubs, and even trends that have popped up. It might include pages that are dedicated to academics, sports, and organization, but they also may be a time-based strategy so that you're covering the academics that are happening during this week or 2-week or 3-week span, all collectively on a spread. It may also include things like a theme-based feature. A lot of people call this a showstopper spread. You might also have those personality profiles, and then you can move back into creating another weekly feature or bi-weekly. So the beauty of a chronological ladder is that it lets you submit your pages in a way that works really well for how they are printed. We know that our plant prints our pages in groups of 16. This is called a signature. And so we know that it's important to submit 16 pages at a time, not leaving a single one of them blank in the center, because leaving a single one blank in the center is going to hold up that production. So the beautiful thing about organizing the yearbook chronologically is that as you move through the year, as those events happen, you can submit pages and print them on time. Also, notice that each one of these, this is the online ladder that you can find and you can print out, or there's also a paper version of this you can hang up on the wall. It has a little space here for you to assign the deadline number to it. And as I mentioned, there is a paper ladder, and this is one of my favorite things to have up on the wall. It's pretty old school to handwrite a ladder out, but I like to be able to see the entire plan for the yearbook as it evolves and make sure that we're assigning those deadlines. And even here, there's a place to mark whether it's proofed or submitted. Also, you'll know that Jostens will have an online ladder for you that will look something like this. And also, you can create your own Excel ladder with some story brainstorming. And so here you can see I've created one that has 3 different deadlines on it. And I've got the page number listed here, if it's going to be a weekly spread, who is assigned to it, and then there's a list of the stories that we want to cover and then how we want to cover them. So this Netflix binge-worthy story might be a calendar. This cheer clinic story might be the dominant narrative. Debate tryouts might be a photo quote package, and what's in your backpack might be a by the numbers type of story. Thanks so much for joining us today, and happy yearbooking and happy ladder designing.